Welcome back to the grandstand. This is Puxan in Paris. F1 is going back to Monaco this weekend. And F. Knowles, I think you're going to Indy.
Yeah, Indy 500. I think this is going to be either 23rd or 24th Indy 500 that I've been to. I actually need to
Damn.
get that stat right because it's a competition in our family.
That's over 2 decades of tailgating.
My brother's actually next to me, and he's made it clear that he's been to more races than I've been to. So this fucking guy.
I mean, if he has them, he's got to claim that. I agree as a stat man here.
I mean, listen, if I was in his position, I'd be blasting it everywhere I possibly could. So,
dude, I'd fucking make a T-shirt. But yeah,
I've been to more races than my older brother.
Oh yeah, he's your younger brother too. Ooh,
Yeah,
that's a
dude.
flex. Well, May is a big month for racing. We'll do a bit of an Indy qualifying report as our resident Indy guy. You'll get into that later, but So we have some news after Imola, the cancellation of last weekend, and it's not looking like teams want to reschedule it because the only gap in the schedule will be during summer break. And with all the races going on, I feel like the teams actually want a summer break, but F1 is trying to maybe get a race out there just to kind of help out the region, generate some income. Let's see.
I feel that's tricky.
Yeah. As of now, it's looking like it's going to be just a straight delete off the calendar. And Mercedes, we're going to talk a lot about Mercedes today. They announced they're going to invest in a campus-like infrastructure in Brackley to basically have a more integrated team. Yeah, they've taken inspiration from US structures, I guess. And Toto Wolff is teaching a business class at Harvard.
I did hear that. That'd be a fun little situation.
I'd do it if they do it on their like free Harvard University classes platform. I'd definitely do it.
Freeharvard.com. I go to Free Harvard. I don't go to Real Harvard. I go to freeharvard.com.
Harvard
Actually,
extension.
There's a comedian who's like, if your university is advertised on television or in the subway, you probably aren't going anywhere. That's what freeharvard.com sounds like.
Oh man, so true. I agree with that. All right,
big ups, Toto.
Yeah, Toto. Mercedes is going to be a big feature of this episode. We have a lot to talk about, so let's roll that intro and get into it.
Roll it, roll it, roll it.
A question for all of you except Romain Grosjean.
To whom it may concern, fuck you.
More ladies in the paddock? Yeah, more paddock access to some women. There's too many dudes.
I don't really have a lot to comment on that, except that he was being a pussy.
I don't know. Gets me revved up, dude.
Symbolizes racing, fully torqued, man. Patent pending. So we spoke a lot about silly season this year. I feel like earlier than other seasons. And if you don't know what silly season means, it's when rumors start popping up about who's going where. And one of the biggest rumors recently was that Aston Martin was going to part ways with Mercedes and sign a deal with Honda. And that has been announced and officialized a couple of days ago. And that which means that Aston Martin Honda will be a works partnership from 2026 onwards when the new engine regs come in.
Honda doing the one leg in, one leg out hokey pokey dance with Formula One, man.
Yes, as a recap, Honda's always been in and out. They were partners with McLaren during the Senna years when Senna was, at its peak there. They came back in the early 2000s. That failed.
Honda, what was it? Honda BAR, right?
Yeah, so it's British American racing Honda, and then they became Honda for 1 year. Then they said, okay, we're out of here because we're not getting the returns. What they ended up selling became world champion the year after they got out.
Right.
And I think during COVID, they got cold feet and they said, all right, we're not getting the results after all these years chasing Mercedes. And the year they announce they're pulling out of F1, they win the championship with Max. Yeah, they have a bit of a history with going in and out, but let's hope that now they're here for the long run. And it does mean that now we have another big player, and Aston Martin, I think, is going to become stronger and stronger. That's going to be a very, very good looking seat for 2026 onwards.
Well, we'll see if Fernando gives up that seat, dude. This dude, I feel like he's going to race until he, physically can't hold the steering wheel anymore.
Oh, as long as he keeps performing, he's there. And I don't know if you saw, well, to give a quick recap, when Honda partnered with McLaren in the mid 2010s, their engine was absolute shit. And Alonso was driving for McLaren, and he called them out multiple times, even saying it was a GP2 engine, which doesn't really go down well, especially in Japan.
Yeah. Dude, well, I mean, on that note, like, funny enough, I think I've claimed this theory on this podcast, but his hate for the Honda engine at that point with McLaren was so bad, Honda wouldn't work with him during his Indy 500, his second Indy 500 bid, which ultimately led them to have to use Chevy engines, and he didn't end up qualifying. And not to say that the Chevy engine was shit, it's that they had to partner with a team that didn't use, it was just a whole nightmare.
The strongest package, right?
Yeah. It was not great.
But you know what? It looks like it's water under the bridge for both parties, because Honda came out saying that Alonso is a genius driver.
Oh, man.
And actually, part of the deal is that Aston Martin has full control of drivers for 2026 at least. So that means Yuki, who's already in the mix, will have to wait a couple of years. But when I say that seat, because we all know there'll always ever only be one seat available at that Honda, Aston Martin Honda, with Lance Stroll having kind of the permanent contract there. But let's see, it's very interesting. And there's been a lot of rumors recently about Lewis Hamilton. We even had a figure coming out in the press. Everyone's going nuts about it, that Ferrari offered him 40 million euros.
Crazy.
We mentioned it a bit. I think it's not enough. If Ferrari want to poach Lewis, they gotta double that.
I don't know, man. I mean, going into Monaco this weekend, to have that kind of like it's going to be such a big story beyond just the race itself. My quick take on it is that Lewis doesn't go there. I think it's not a culture fit for him.
I think it might be a negotiating tactic for Lewis to get a little bit more out of Merc. I think Lewis will be the Merc guy forever, even post retirement.
I mean, he's only raced with Mercedes engines his entire career.
That's right, entire F1 career. And we're going to Monaco. So this is the weekend where Monaco and the Indy 500 happen on the same day, of course. Yeah. And Monaco is just one of those special tracks. Some people hate it. Some people love it. I do think that it's a historic track. It's been there since 1950 and the first year of Formula One. But also, this is the track where you get the least battling on track. And it's all about not putting it in the wall. And that's what makes this track so special, I think, is that you're driving at over 200 miles per hour. And in order to put a good lap in, you got to brush the walls.
There are people who've made the argument that Monaco is not suited for Formula One cars now. But to take Monaco off, you lose some of the heritage with the sport. And I don't, let's be real. Like, even though it might not be suited to the cars these days, the history of this race is such that I personally would be very upset if they took it off the calendar.
Monaco had this very special place on the calendar and even preferential treatment that a lot of other tracks were envious of, but it's because it has such a big place in history. And winning in Monaco is not easy, as we've seen. Are cars suited for the track? No. But do we still want to see the cars go by? Yeah, it probably is the most exciting qualifying session of the year. So on Saturday, when you see the drivers go out, I think putting in that lap is, I think that's the most exhilarating session of the year. And a lot of times you'll have drivers crashing out, trying to get faster and faster. We've had that the last few years. And sometimes people say they do it on purpose. It's happened before. Michael Schumacher, Rosberg, Checo.
You have, the list goes on, the never ending list, dude. I think what I love about Monaco too is just it, and even with these cars, it is the margin for error, I think, is the slimmest of any track on the calendar, which is another reason to keep it, because the cars might be bigger than they've ever been, but I think that puts a challenge in front of us. The race itself might be a bit of a procession, but those qualifying laps. I mean, look at Charles, right? And what he did, and ultimately he puts a car on pole and then bins it, trying to get another hot lap in, fucks his transmission up, and ends up not being able to start the race. So
that one hurt.
Yeah, that one. I genuinely feel bad for y'all who you supposed to be out there.
And Charles is, there's a lot of F1 drivers live in Monaco, not for any fiscal reasons or anything, but Charles is actually local, born and raised there. So he literally drives in front of the apartment he grew up at. So this weekend is going to be, there's a lot going on. So we didn't race in Imola, and I think the talk of the paddock is the Mercedes update. I feel a lot of people are making a big deal out of it. Toto's trying to manage expectations, saying there's no silver bullet, but everyone is excited to see what the Merc has, and if those updates can actually bring any performance. I don't know if Monaco would be the track where we will see those the performance bump. Better start now than later, I guess, right?
Yeah. What if you don't start now, when do you start? At the end of the day, if you keep missing out on points, they're not in the battle with Red Bull. I don't even think that should be at this point. It can't be a conversation. It's very clear that, when you look at Red Bull has more points than Red Bull, Ferrari, and Aston Martin combined right now.
Is it? Wow.
I'm pretty sure that's a real stat. You can check me on that, as a resident stat boy. But I think that conversation needs to stop, quite frankly. But as far as that P2 and the constructors, it's game on, and I think they need to bring it to Aston Martin ultimately, because it's a bit embarrassing when we've got a works team out competing the actual manufacturer.
Yeah. So I did a quick math here. And
quick maths.
Red Bull. Okay. So they definitely have more points than number 2 and number 3, which is already huge. And if you go Aston Martin, Mercedes, and Ferrari, that's 276, and Red Bull has 224. So they could even compete with the 3 going along.
Wow.
Red Bull is clearly dominating. They've won every race this year so far. They've got 4 out of 5 pole positions, and they've even won the sprint race. It's going to be hard, but if there were a track where Red Bull could be challenged, I'd say this is it, because this is not a track where the DRS has any huge impact. There's only mini straights, and they're not that long, so you can't even use the DRS much. And I think cars are only full throttle for about 43% of the lap. So it's nothing. It's more about feathering throttle. And I think some teams are really good in early parts of acceleration phases, and they could actually compete. I remember every dominating team, when they go to Monaco, they don't dominate as much. Not saying Red Bull's going to be in the back fighting it out with, the Haas and AlphaTauri, but they could be P5, P6. Who knows?
You really think so?
First of all, yeah. I don't know. Actually, it all, as I said, it depends on qualifying, right? Qualifying is usually a big thing. And Monaco is, if you qualify P10, I'll just tell you that Max is going to have a harder time winning from P10 in Monaco than he did at, was it Miami?
Yeah.
P9, right?
Well, yeah, making your way through the field in Monaco is about as easy as, I don't know what there's not a lot of things that are more difficult than making your way through the field in sport than
in Formula 1.
Your way through in Formula 1. Yeah. It's not fun.
Yeah, it's not fun. Going back to the Merc talk, because you're a Merc fan yourself, are you
Right.
excited, or are you just thinking this is going to be setting down the foundation for next year and start working on that car?
Well, I'm going to say this. I'm not a Ferrari fan. I don't do like a Ferrari fan where I get my expectations up really high and then
Yeah, I'll do that.
let myself down because I'm not a masochist, but or maybe I am. I don't know. In other parts of my life, um, no, but my expectations are very low this season. If one of the drivers from Mercedes, and I would really like to see Lewis on the podium personally. If George is on, I would also like that, but I'm excited to see what they bring. I don't know if these updates are going to really be the differentiator in Monaco, but I do want to see post Monaco, especially like when we're in Spain, I think that's where we can see these updates maybe level the playing field a little bit more, but it's going to come down to qualifying at the end of the day, like you said. So
for Monaco, for sure.
Monaco, yeah, definitely.
I agree with you. I think the real impact of those updates will come maybe in Barcelona, maybe further down, because they also need to figure out if what they did works. Right. But Ferrari and Aston Martin also could be in the mix. They have been closer to Red Bull on some occasions this year. And as you said, Charles is really good around Monaco. He's fast. I've claimed it on the podcast before. I think he's the fastest driver over one lap. And Alonso has a bit of he has that evil smile on his face about this track. He thinks this is one of his best shots for his first win at Aston Martin. It comes down to Saturday. Don't miss qualifying, because if Alonso qualifies on pole, barring any pit stop drama, he has that in the bag.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's a lot of chatter from the Aston Martin camp basically saying that they think that they've got a legitimate shot at winning this race with Fernando, not with Lance, to be very clear about that. But
I was going to say, we always try to see who needs a good weekend. And I mean, Lance would be on that list for me.
I think so. I mean, Fernando's been kind of bitch slapping him as far as results are concerned. A little disconcerting, but Fernando is Fernando. So
exactly. I'm super pumped for Fernando this weekend, and there might be some weather. It keeps moving around. It was supposed to be for qualifying. Now it might be for the race. Rain in Monaco could make it for an interesting race for once.
That would honestly, if it was raining this weekend, particularly during the race, maybe not even in qualifying, but during the race, it becomes much more unpredictable.
Yeah, and
what the result's going to be.
Absolutely. And what makes it more interesting if it rains? That Pirelli was supposed to test out their new wet weather tires last weekend, and they're bringing them to Monaco, and they're not going to use the tire warmer. So basically, they're not warmed at all. They're just like straight out of the garage. Huh. So that would mean like huge temperature differences if someone's on slicks, someone's on on wets or intermediate. So keep an eye on that for this weekend as well.
Yeah, we were chatting on our Formula One thread about different things that can make the race more interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think tires make that. Tires will make or break anyone's race. One of the bigger things I'm curious to see is, it feels like every weekend we're saying that Ferrari needs a result. And let's see if they can get their tire strategy correct this weekend.
Yeah, and Ferrari, we're going back to the scene of a crime last year where Ferrari completely messed up Charles's strategy.
Oh my god!
At least for a high podium, maybe even a win. But what about the midfield here? Can we see any surprise this year, you think, from the midfield? Sometimes you will see some midfield teams mixing it up. I would say more around P5 to P10. Who do you have your eye on this weekend?
I gotta say, this is gonna be. It might seem like an odd one for you. I've got my eye on AlphaTauri, actually.
Wow. Did not expect that.
No, exactly. I think I feel like both AlphaTauri and I think Alpine. AlphaTauri because Yuki has like been having a very a quiet season for the most part, and not putting the car into the deep points, but he's been outshining De Vries, who we all thought was going to actually outshine Yuki.
Yeah,
But
we were all on that De Vries hype train a little too
Right.
fast, I think.
But I have my eye on them. I think they could be a little bit of a disruptor this weekend. I'm not sure why I'm feeling that way, other than De Vries is feeling the heat, and I think he wants to put in a good result for the team. I think Yuki's driving I would argue the best he's ever driven in Formula One up to this point in his career.
100%.
And but then Alpine, man, like Laurent Rossi calling out the entire team. They're technically on home soil in a weird way. And,
close enough.
Close-ish, yeah, proximity. I mean, France represents Monaco internationally, all that bullshit. Anyway,
right, so are you saying that when Charles becomes world champion, we can claim him as a French champion, or?
Sure.
No, I don't think you would accept.
I know you want to hear the Marseillaise every weekend, so
that's happened before in his junior categories where he got up on the top step and they played the Marseillaise, which is the French national anthem.
Well, the Monegasque national anthem's pretty boring, if you ask me. So you should just do it for the sake of the fans. But no, I think Alpine. We need to. I'm keeping my eye on Alpine this weekend.
I think you're right. I think Alpine could do very well in terms of the midfield. I think they can get some good. I don't know how to say this, but like good scraps, basically.
I mean they've been scrappy. Let's not say that they haven't been, but it's just been. I don't know. Expectations, I think, were set fairly high for them this season. In thinking that they would be in that sort of. I wouldn't even go P2 to P3, but that like P4 to P5 battle. And right now it just hasn't been that way.
Before the start of the season, they claimed they were aiming at P3 constructors.
Yeah, well,
you have to readjust, kind of like Merck. On that Alpine note, this is the first weekend that Pierre Gasly is not under threat of a race ban. He's lost 2 points. You know how the point system works. It refreshes every 12 months. So now he went from 10 points to 8 points. And when you get to 12, you get a race ban. So now he might be driving with a bit less stress, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've been talking about that forever. So I'm glad that it's like, there's finally that reset for him, because he was on a knife edge on that.
Yeah. And, when that accident in Australia, thank God that was with Ocon. Otherwise, he would have gotten this point. So let's see how he does. I'm secretly, I'm really hoping for a good weekend from Alpine. And I think Alfa Romeo, I don't know why, I think they do well in slow corners. Not to say that they're a slow car, but they do well in the slow stuff. Yeah. So keep an eye on them. And I'm also excited to see a new livery. We have McLaren celebrating the Triple Crown with a fresh livery, kind of an orange, white, and black livery. So let's see. Maybe they could be mixing it up in those high points as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like when it's the return of the subliminal Marlboro liveries.
Yeah, so when you look at the car from a bird's eye view, I guess, it looks like a cigarette butt, then the cigarette, then the ash. Which Redditors had a field day with that. And the conspiracy theorists are saying it's the Marlboro coming back in. But I like it. I like the livery, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's cool to see. I don't know. It's an anniversary since they first won the Triple Crown. Is that the deal?
Good question. They've
won it they've done it 3 times, McLaren.
It must be a round number for one of the wins, right? So
it must be. No, we should know this.
This is the amount of research that goes on.
But no, it's cool. And as I go to Indy this weekend, their IndyCar team is also running special liveries this weekend as well.
So the same livery, I'm guessing.
So they've got 4 cars in the 500 this weekend, which is crazy.
Give us the Indy report. Qualifying was going on last weekend, right?
Yeah, qualifying happened last weekend. Very clean. I mean, there's only been one crash all month so far, which is actually pretty rare. that you
Right.
only have one incident. And it happened in practice earlier this week with Stefan Wilson, who actually can't race in the 500 because he broke his legs in the crash.
Oh wow! I was going to
And
ask
I
how
think
big of a crash it was. Damn,
it
that's
was
huge.
huge. Yeah, he went straight into the wall. I mean, at like a 90-degree angle. So wasn't great.
Wow.
He's in good spirits. But yeah, so yeah, man, McLaren have 4 drivers in the race. One is just a one-off, Tony Kanaan, who's an IndyCar champion, Indy 500 winner. This is his last race. His last IndyCar race. He's retiring.
Wow.
But no, man, qualifying was exciting. It was crazy. There were 34 cars competing for 33 spaces or 33 positions in the race. And Graham Rahal, who is the son of IndyCar and Indy 500 champion Bobby Rahal, they have their team, Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan Racing, did not end up qualifying for the race. They have been absolutely terrible all month long. Well, they actually did really well in the road course at Indy, which happened about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. And then during qualifying, they were just garbage. I mean, they were in the bottom of the timetables and the speed tables all weekend. He doesn't end up qualifying, but a little bit of, I don't even know if I call this luck, but when Stefan Wilson had his incident, IndyCar ruled that he will not be allowed to race in the race. Obviously, his team called on Graham to take his spot. So Graham is back in the 500.
But not in his car, right?
What's that? No, he's racing in Stefan Wilson's car.
Right, yeah.
So similar to like how Jensen Button, took Fernando's seat when he was qualifying or ran Indy. Graham is taking over his seat. But yeah, man, it's going to be an exciting race. Alex Palou, first Spanish driver to ever be on pole at the Indy 500, drives for Chip Ganassi Racing, and all the McLarens. Speaking of McLaren, all the McLarens are in the top 10 in the first 4 rows.
Wow.
Yeah. So McLaren has 4 of these four cars in the top 10. So they're looking racy.
Yeah, Zach Brown was super excited in the press about his prospects for Indy, but I think he will be in Monaco this weekend.
Will be. Yeah. He was actually at the Indy Grand Prix 2 weeks ago. So when they were racing there. But yeah, man, you've got Pato O'Ward, Alexander Rossi, who is a former Formula One driver for Marussia. His stint didn't last that long.
Hey, at least he made it.
And he did.
He's in the record books.
Yeah, he's there. He ends up winning the Indy 500 on a fuel strategy the following year after he leaves Formula One. It was pretty crazy with Andretti Motorsport. And got Felix Rosenquist, who has been super fast all month. Swedish driver. And it's funny because they were doing like the promo photo with the Borg Warner trophy. And he was late to the photo shoot. And as he shows up to sit down in his seat, one of the drivers pulled his chair out from underneath him. He fell on his ass. Pretty good.
Oh, I don't know. That's always funny.
Yeah. Oh, dude, everybody was dying. It was too good.
Injured himself and will not be racing. No, I'm kidding.
Now he can't race. Good job. Good job, boys. Real funny. You could see he was a little pissed. He's like, what if I got hurt?
Yeah. I would be too, but it is very fun. Who's your favorite for the Indy 500 here?
Dude, this year, I gotta say it's TK Tony Kanaan.
Cool.
Yeah, like the funny thing about Indy is everybody's got their favorite drivers, or you don't, but you're just happy to see a good race at the end of the day. And when lap 180 rolls around and guys are battling, and they're swapping positions every other lap. I think last year there were the most on-track passes of any Indy 500, something like over 200 passes.
Last year was very exciting. End of the race.
Yeah, it was cool. And so I think, just from a general fan perspective, it's always great to see that. But I've got to go Tony Kanaan for sure. If Tony, even in the driver announcements when they do that in the beginning of the race, all that pomp and circumstance that Formula One doesn't do, and drivers were complaining about in Miami.
The LL Cool J intro.
Yeah, exactly. I guarantee the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is going to lose their mind.
Wow. Well, maybe we can get the F. Knowles report live from Indy.
There'll be a little reportage for sure
on our recap. All right, so Tony Kanaan is your favorite for the Indy, and what about your predictions for Monaco for the stand championship? Just to give you a quick reminder, you were up 71-48, hasn't moved because we did not race in Imola.
Max is gonna be on pole.
Okay.
I don't say, yeah, Max is gonna be on pole. I'm going to go Checo.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. I feel like we didn't mention him the whole episode, but
We didn't.
King of the Streets, Checo, for the win.
Yeah, but Max apologists, come after you when you call Checo King of the Streets. So ridiculous. I'm gonna go. I have a feeling Max doesn't finish this race. So I'm gonna take some risks this weekend because I've got a little bit of a lead here.
Flex.
I'm gonna go Lewis P2.
Wow.
Because I think it's gonna rain, and I think it's gonna be Fernando P3. I'm going Charles P4 and Carlos P5. And Gromo is gonna go to my compatriot Logan Sargent.
Wow. Okay. I think we're going fairly different directions this week. So I could either make up a lot of points or you might have the biggest lead of the year here. I think on home soil, Leclerc will put in a magical lap that will bring tears to my eyes. And then I think Alonso wins the race. I think it's going to be a close battle between those three. Leclerc finishes P2. Strong results at home. I think Verstappen brings it home in P3. If your predictions does come true, it wouldn't be bad for the championship for a DNF, but I think he finishes P3, Carlos P4, and I think Lewis P5. I think the Merc will still be a little bit on the back foot, and the Gromo for this weekend will go to De Vries. I think he's going to overdrive it.
Ooh.
I'm just playing the numbers game here. Nothing against the guy. I actually, just like Juan Pablo Montoya, ex-F1 driver and ex-Indy 500 winner, I think that he deserves a bit more time. But as we know, Red Bull doesn't give you that time.
No, dude. And Helmut Marko's been running his mouth all weekend. Or all week, once again, about the whole Lewis thing. Helmut Marko said that Lewis is jealous about Red Bull's success this season.
Yeah, I think every single driver who's not driving a Red Bull is. Not just Lewis.
Helmut Marko loves stirring the pot, but whatever. That's who he is.
He really does, and I hope he keeps doing it because it's funny. It's good.
Yeah, it's good banter.
It's good for the banter. But yeah, that about wraps it up for us here this week. You can follow us on social media at the Grandstand F1. Listen to us wherever you listen to your podcast. Give us a 5-star review. And yeah, we'll be back next week with the Indy 500 special report by F. Knowles and the Monaco review.
See ya.